grief and new love can coexist.
Always. And guess what? Grief and love can coexist for years and years and years.
Did you push record?
Thanks so much for tuning into Our Second Act with Paige and Silka.
For your second act of life. Hey, Silka, as I come for you with a congested nose, a rough throat, a cough that will go all through this filming today.
That's okay, Paige. There is no calling in sick on Second Act TV. I'm sorry.
No.
I pay you way too much.
Oh my gosh, she's a sweet driver.
If only. Paige, we're talking about a topic today that is, well, it's a deep topic. Lots of comments recently, again, from both men and women, and that is dating. When do you start, and how do you start dating after being the loss of a spouse? Be a widow or widower. What I'd like to talk with you about is just some things that we might not even think about, being either the person who lost the spouse or the one that's now dating somebody who lost a spouse. Talk to me about that.
Nothing about it is easy. So I'm just going to jump in and see where we go with it. So if you're someone who's trying to figure out, when do I start dating again? Do I even want to date ever again because the person who I was with has died? So that's the big thing that a lot of people go through. So depending on what kind of a relationship you had, if this was someone you loved deeply and you just can't see yourself without it, it sometimes takes a while to get back into dating. But you can possibly hear from people around you, whether it's friends, family, or colleagues, you got to get back out there. You got to get back out there. There's a pressure of that. Or if you date too soon, and who defines too soon? Clearly, it's not you. It's everybody around you that's like, should you be dating that right now? What do your children think? Whether they're adult children, by our age, you have adult children. Should you be dating this early? Oh my gosh, what does that say to the memory of the person? So you're like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. So the first thing we jump into is, when do I date? Who's going to say, is it okay for me to date? Am I going to get flack for dating? Am I going to get flack for not dating? So I'll start with that first, Silka.
No, and we're joking a little bit, and believe me, this is not funny. But it is that situation that's so frustrating and so incredibly difficult. And so let's go from the assumption that you have made the decision that you're ready, which I think is really all that matters. It doesn't matter what other people think. I think that's maybe our first takeaway.
Yeah.
What other people think, it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter. And here's the thing too. Even if you believe you're ready to date and you go out on a date and you realize I'm not ready for this, that's okay too. Because there's many people who start the process and go, wait a minute, oh my God, this is too effing hard. I'm just not ready yet. Be gentle with yourself because it's in your time frame. Also, when you're dating, it's really challenging because if most of the time when a loved one dies, you're going to remember all the wonderful things,
Right.
not all the stuff that drove you apeshit crazy, right? So when you're dating somebody, oftentimes you'll compare. What do they look like? How do they sound? What kind of things do they do? Well, that's not what my loved one would have said if I said this. What are they eating? Oh my gosh. How do they kiss? Sex. Like there's all these things that go on that it's just so normal to compare. And you might find some things that are refreshing. And then you might feel guilty about finding the things that are refreshing. And then it takes you back to, should I be dating? So there can be this this cycle that kind of goes through. So that's another thing is, be very gentle with yourself because you are going to compare. There are going to be things. It's as if, we've all dated many times, and think about times in your life when a person didn't die, but the relationship ended.
Mm-hmm.
You still compare when you go to the next person what went on before and now. It's just so much more deeper.
Mm-hmm.
And oh my gosh, the person's memory. Am I allowed to feel good? Am I allowed to feel that this feels good? Is it okay to feel good? It's a really hard thing to do. And then there's the person that you're dating
Mm-hmm.
who's going through a whole other kind of thing of, oh my God, are they comparing me to the person that died? Do I ask about the person that died? Do we go there? What do I say? I mean, there's so many,
Right.
things that get involved in
Right.
this.
And that, you brought up a great point. I wanted to also steer the conversation in this direction because if you want a new relationship, if you are ready, you want a new relationship, you're open to that, is to be really aware of not making the new person feel like they can't live up to a memory. By having lots of photographs around. I don't, there's a lot of stuff even through social media that can now come back. Memories on Facebook, etc. There's stuff that we didn't deal with years ago. Personally, I was on that side. I briefly, after I was divorced, dated someone, a widower. He checked all the boxes that could have been potentially a good relationship, but I never felt like I was going to live up to the memory of his ex-wife, which is.
But did that come from you or did that come from him? Or was it a
It
combination?
was a combination, probably a
And that's
combination.
another good point, that there's a combination of, where does living up to this person who's died come from? There's always something that the person who's dating, someone whose loved one has died, that's in the back of their mind, kind of like that was probably in the back of your mind all the time. And it probably felt like pressure sometimes for you.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it. I'm not. I'm just trying to be really honest by how somebody who is on the other side, what they go through.
Yeah.
If you're the one dating or trying to find somebody new, very uncomfortable. And I also felt like I was. He slotted me in the role that his ex-wife played. There was like one simple example was we were ordering Chinese food and he gave me only two choices to order off the menu. At first I thought it was really weird. Then in retrospect, I thought I bet that's what they did. That these were the
So,
two things.
yeah, so let me comment on that because that's really important. So that's great to bring up. So if you're dating somebody who's lost a loved one, or if you're the one who has, it's really hard to get out of habits
Mm-hmm.
and it's really hard to get out of patterns. So if you're the one who's decided I'm ready to date after your loved one dies, be cognizant of that. And if you notice yourself doing it, it really is okay to say, I'm so sorry. Sometimes I still have these patterns of when I was with my wife or when I was with my husband or my boyfriend, whoever it was. And if you're the one that's engaging in this for the first time and you're new to dating someone who's lost a loved one, there's a space for compassion and empathy. And it really is okay to say, I'm not quite sure what to do. Do I ask about the person who died? Should I bring it up? Is this taboo? And it's just been my experience that the more you don't talk about something
Mm-hmm.
that's lingering in the room, the bigger and thicker that it becomes. It doesn't need to be the staple of the conversation because if the person starts talking and that's all they're talking about, then they're not ready to date.
Yeah.
But if you bring it up and you just kind of say, look, I don't want to make this the elephant in the room. This is new for me. I don't know how you are. It could engage other conversations too. And it might settle things and make them a little bit more like, phew, okay, we got that off the plate.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that, the elephant in the room. I think that could be one of the biggest takeaways from this segment today.
Mhm.
Is there's very live, like when I do the research, and we'll link to some articles that I think have some good advice, but it's very linear, very logical, very, yeah, you kind of already
Works.
know this, it works, but what do you really feel? Some of those raw emotions that I wanted to kind of bring on the table today. So thank you
Yeah.
for.
Remember that messy's always better.
Yeah.
Like there's no perfect way of dating, and there's definitely no perfect way to date after someone has died. So it's okay to be messy and just kind of say, boy, this feels really weird, but I gotta ask, or I'm a little nervous about this, because the other person will probably say, phew, I'm nervous too. But let's see what this turns out to be like.
One of the things that I read and get your opinion on this as we close out this segment is that grief and new love can coexist.
Always. And guess what? Grief and love can coexist for years and years and years. And you can be with someone for a long time whose loved one died, and you may think, oh my gosh, they're over this. This is all good, especially if you haven't experienced it. And then one day out of nowhere, the person you've been dating for a while completely breaks down in the grocery store over a box of cereal or something. So that's the beast around grief. Is it's a beast, and it's like a storm. You don't know sometimes when it's going to roll in and when it's going to roll out. But the big thing is let it roll in and let it roll out, and talk to each other about it. If you feel like, oh my gosh, do you miss this person more than being with me? It's not black or white. It's, I know you're feeling a lot. What's the memory that you're having right now? Maybe I can hold the space for you and talk through it. There's no competition.
No, that's
So talking about it, communicating, and bringing it out is really, really important.
really, again, really great point. There is no competition, and that was brought up a lot too. That you somehow slot yourself in that, maybe, which I did. And mine was very brief, but it brought to mind what an important and difficult topic this is. So Paige,
It is, yeah.
yeah. So Paige, thank you. I do want to, if we have any viewers, any listeners that are in this situation, if you have specific questions, this is a quick segment that we did. We think it's an important topic. Please leave us your comments. We will return to this topic at some point soon on Our Second Act with Paige and Silka.
For your second act of life.
Thanks.
Bye.
If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to our channel. The button is right here. Just click on through to YouTube, and when you see that little bell right next to the subscribe button, hit that too. We'll notify you every time we release a new video. See you next time.